Alrighty, here we are. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Junk Shop Library channel and to Mental Health Thursdays, where today we're talking depression. Why, you may ask? Because old junk shops depress. That's all there is to it. That was the amount of thought that went into it. Thank you all so much for coming, despite the incredible downer of a title I slapped on this thing. Good to see everybody in the chat. Hey, Mark Caesar. Hey, Ease. Good to see y'all, even if only in passing. All right. So, depression sucks. I know there's more than one folk in the chat who can agree with me on that. I am actually feeling much better today. Those of y'all who interact with me on Twitter know that last night was a low. As was the entire day yesterday. But I got through part of it due to some advice from my amazing wife, Julie LaVoice, who I see is here in the chat with us. And she introduced me a while back to a concept in cognitive behavioral therapy called opposite to emotion activity. And I think I mentioned this before in the stream where we talked about coping mechanisms, both adaptive and maladaptive. Hey, Lone Wanderer, good to see you. Rainbug, all right. And it's exactly what it sounds like, opposite to emotion activity. You figure out first and foremost, what is the emotion you're feeling? That's very important. And then you do something different physically. You do something you don't necessarily want to do. For me, yesterday, it was get out and run errands. I had to, let's see, I had to go buy cigarettes. I had to go to the fish store for some fish-related supplies. And, hey, Godless Granny, good to see you, as always. And thank you, Mark Caesar. I appreciate that very much. And now, having said that, once I had sort of made the loop of the area and was safely back inside, away from the madding throng, I discovered I had burned all my spoons. Some of y'all probably more familiar. Some of y'all I know are right familiar with spoon theory. But it stems from a lengthy article that I didn't realize I was going to be talking about, or I would have linked it below because it's well worth reading. But the idea is that you start out the day with a finite amount of energy, of emotional capital, number of spoons, if you will. And that everything you do over the course of the day occupies a little more brain space, eats some of your emotional capital, takes away some of your spoons. And those of us with chronic illness, whether mental or otherwise, have to be parsimonious, sometimes more so than others, in the usage of our spoons, because once you run out, you're out. They only come back while you sleep. Well, hey, Paul Camish, good to see you as always, my friend. And Dave's got the links. Why would I ever have doubted? Thank you so much. Oh my. Granny, are you taking on AIG again? I remember when that last video that you thought was going to be short and sweet turned out to be a two-parter. Whatever it is, I'm sure it's going to be fantastic. It always is. And of course, the Buffy rewatch discussion going on. That's a comfort food for a lot of us. I think it's about coming up on time for me to revisit the Buffy verse here and there. Captain Timothy asks, do I have a spoon recharger? Because she wants to go there. Yeah, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? And it's true. Sometimes they don't come back in your sleep. I had a day earlier this week where I used an abundance of spoons on an abundance of tasks on a given day. And when I woke up the next day, I was still real fucking low on the spoons. Oh, was I ever a Christian? Oh, that's gonna be interesting. Oh, that sounds lovely. A mini forest. That sounds delightful. And also, as Dave points out, sleep can do fuck all for some spoons. I didn't put up my... Hang on. I knew something was missing. I didn't put up my Thursday crawler there. Put up my patrons here in a second, but I gotta let this one run for a minute. So yeah, you see how I'm ducking and dodging all over the place? That's why ending the stigma is so very fucking important. Because I don't like that I have depression. I have, upon occasion, apologized for having depression, which, when you think about it, is just weird. But sometimes the depression gets under your skin and makes you feel like you got to apologize for it. Let's see. Where was I about to go? I had a whole paragraph blocked out in my mind, but I seem to have wadded up that chart and thrown it into the mental dustbin. It's just coffee. Oh, y'all hear me? Yeah, never again says I've apologized for having depression hundreds of times. And Microraptor points out it's like apologizing for needing a wheelchair. Exactly. The thing is, I've gotten it into my head that there's no shame and no need to apologize about being medicated against depression. Y'all have heard me talk about my medication here on the channel before, and we're going to have an entire stream here soon dedicated to medication, the medication roller coaster, and some of the multitudinous issues that come along with that. And that will be with a very special guest star. So make sure your notifications are turned on. What to do if I burst out crying in a meeting? Because that used to happen. Oh, goodness. I have narrowly avoided that. more times than I care to count. But yes, it is. There's nothing wrong with it. And one of the best things that we can do for ourselves and for each other, I believe, in my complete and total layperson's opinion, is talk about it. Speak up about it. Talk out about it. And as Mark Caesar points out, be there for each other. So crucial to be there for each other. We have fostered an amazing community, all of y'all, and I have seen the support go flying around, lighting on whoever needs it to roost there for a while. And I've been the recipient of that, and I'm very grateful for that when it happens. Aunt Juris, my dad said to, oh dear, yeah, that's a generational, not necessarily generational, but certainly a worldview sort of thing. I get depressed sometimes and want to stay in bed all day too, but I have responsibilities, and sometimes that works. Sometimes you can tell your depression it just needs to go fuck itself for a while, get underway, and go do what you need to do. Sometimes you can't. And I would love for there to no longer be any shame about that. But as Michael Raptor points out, sometimes there is no spoon. And yes, as Lavender Lady points out, I'm pulling that up. Too many people confuse depression with sadness, and they are not the same thing, as unfortunately entirely too many people here in the chat know entirely too well. It's sad is one thing. Sad is an emotion. And sad, even though it doesn't necessarily feel like it sometimes, will eventually pass. Sometimes depression passes also. Sometimes it is chronic. And for those of us who deal with it more or less constantly, it can verge on the, or cross over into the territory of the crippling. It can seriously disrupt your life. You can literally not be able to get off the couch, and that's if you made it from the bed to the couch to begin with. And it can be terrifying. Microraptor points out that depression is closer to constant tiredness. Yes. I can only speak mine, but mine can come with just the absolute Pilgrim's Progress burden of tiredness that just weighs you down and pushes you down into the dirt. And God, that's fucking exhausting. I can't even imagine what folks with chronic fatigue syndrome feel like, because it's goddamn exhausting being tired all the time. Almost sounds like a dumb thing to say, but it is. A lot of y'all know it. Yeah. The Lavender Lady says, when you can't stop crying for a month, it can sort of get in the way of life. Amen, my lady. Amen.
Oh, hey, read what, never again, and
yes. Yes, we got, thank y'all so much for being so wonderful in the chat. I can only monologue for so long, and it's lovely to have feedback and conversations. Tell us, don't forget what you did yesterday when your spoons almost ran out. Add to our tool sets. I did not use the most adaptive of coping mechanisms. I retreated. I literally curled up in a ball on the couch and didn't move for probably a solid 2 hours, and just took my medicine and waited to feel better. And eventually I did grow a new crop of spoons. They were teeny tiny little espresso stirring spoons, but I was able to scrounge up a few, enough to get me through the night and into the day at any rate. And then I had therapy this morning, and sometimes just fucking talking about it with a professional can help you recharge. There's something about an understanding presence who knows what's going on, who gets it, and who can give you ideas and tools for your toolbox that can be positively, if not reinvigorating, then re-strengthening, at least to some extent. Maybe they were cute spoons, like a rapper says. Yeah, oh, they were cute. They were tiny, 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 but they were cute. Let us see. That, yeah. I started suffering with my depression when I was about 16, and when the fits of immobility would come upon me, I got some of that feedback. Don't get me wrong, my folks are lovely, but especially when I was young, they didn't have most helpful ideas about mental health for the conditions with which I myself particularly suffer. And yes, that's exactly what it fucking feels like sometimes. Ugh. Awful. It's awful, I tell you. Anybody knows how to just fucking get rid of it, you let me know. Thank you all for sharing. It's one of the things I sometimes feel when I'm super duper depressed is I start to feel very stranded and alone. And I know I'm not. I've got a wonderful partner who's always here for me and knows exactly what I'm going through. Sometimes that doesn't matter in here. The brain tells lies. Mark Caesar says, brand of depression went, I'd have no energy, go to being pissed off at something and having all the energy in the world. Yeah, I can relate to that. I've never actually seen my file, but I've been juggling this crap for a long time, and I do a lot of reading, so I have my suspicions. Exactly. Wrapped in a wet blanket, thrown in the ocean, and then told to swim. Yep. Yes. So hang on. That's a good one. Just move your body any way you can. That's one that I have. You know, I was talking earlier about opposite to emotion activity, and sometimes that's all it is. Sometimes it's just moving, even if it's just shifting position regularly, so that you don't put your ass to sleep. Because I've done that. That's no fun. Hey, Santi. Good to see you. As Mark points out, that's one of the benefits of the internet. There's always someone to talk to. Yes, that's true. I've made some fascinating and interesting friends on the in the mental health subset of Twitter, which is much like the rest of Twitter, is largely a thriving and fascinating and positive community that is occasionally bedeviled by unbelievably toxic happenings. And sometimes you just gotta slog through the mud to get to the other side. Doc, hey Doc. Doc says the best thing I've found for my depression is comedy. I get a positive charge from making people laugh. Yes. I can, by the time I'm so depressed that I need help getting out of it, I'm so depressed I'm not going to be able to make anybody laugh. But we live in the era of streaming services and YouTube. I don't know why I differentiated that or why my voice got so high right there. But yeah, if I realize I'm just continuing to circle the metaphorical drain of my mind, sometimes I can jump on a little life raft of comedy and slowly paddle away and just find something funny to watch. Well, yeah, that's fair. As Kim points out, that the sometimes just move that I was saying, that sometimes works for me. And that's all I can say. I'm not a professional, of course. I should have said that way earlier in the fucking stream, y'all, shouldn't I? Kim points out that teeters on the edge of exercise will fix it, which many well-meaning people have suggested to her. Yes. I'm just kind of rambling about the experiences I've had and what has historically worked for me or not. Take it all with a grain of salt, and don't please God, don't think I'm an expert, because fucking hell am I not an expert. I'm an expert on my own brain, so even to the extent that any of us can be. But right, and as Microraptor points out, exercise can help, but first you need the motivation to start. Motivation can be a hard thing to find when you're dealing with depression, especially given the limitations put on us under the current social distancing norms and or regulations, depending on where you are. Hey, Robert X, good to see you. Brain bug, same here, my friend. Horror movies help me cope. That is extremely weird, but I'm right there with you. Right there with you. Yeah, I did mention not all of my coping mechanisms are the most adaptive or the healthiest. Oh, HRT is helping a lot. That's awesome. I'm so glad. And again, as Mark Caesar points out, everyone is different, and there is no particular recipe that will work for everyone. I fucking hate exercising. I do feel better after I have exercised, but God, I hate it. It's so hard for me to get started because I don't wanna. I just don't. Especially when I'm super depressed. It's like the last thing I want to do is anything to begin with, let alone pointless, repetitive motions. Bah, humbug. Yeah. And also, you know, it's not like we can just go to the nearest mall and walk in large loops for an hour, right? I mean, I guess technically we could, but it'd be borderline suicidal, right? So we're stuck with whatever we've got in our homes that we can exercise with. And oh my God, free weights get so goddamn boring so goddamn fast. There's only so many push-ups you can do, and you can't exactly run even if you're inclined to, unless you've got a much bigger house than I suspect most of us do. Yeah, you could go around the block, you know, walk or run or whatever. I hadn't done that one single solitary time since quarantine started. First, I was scared to death too, because of death. And then I got used to being inside. And then I got used to being sedentary inside. And now, if I'm being honest, I've just gotten lazy. Please know that I'm not critiquing anybody else in this moment. I'm speaking only of myself. But I myself have gotten positively iniquitously lazy. I got tired. Wow, I got real southern there in addition to being tired, didn't I? I got tired doing the dishes recently. Ridiculous. Yeah. Microraptor says, if I have the spoons for it, walking back and forth in my apartment can help a bit. Hey, whatever works, y'all. Whatever works. You know, within reason. Don't, you know, use your brain, use your morals. Oh, the serious 80s classics. Evil Dead 2 and Return of the Living Dead. There we go. The good shit. I like it. Yes. I'm impressed by everyone who's hanging in there. This is not easy. People who've never experienced serious mental illness sometimes act like you ought to be able to just snap out of it. You know, as I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on who it was, but as somebody in the chat said earlier, some people seem to think that depression is just sadness, you know, or that anxiety is just worry, or that a manic episode is just having too much energy. And no, none of those things are the case. Mental illness can inspire or exacerbate emotions, but y'all know it's not emotions. It's an imbalance of brain chemistry. Or worse. I'm an anorexia survivor. It can get bad. Mental illness can fuck your shit right up. And then every once in a while, especially if you're free range on the internet, run across one of these jag-offs who seems to think that we honestly do just do it for the attention. Like, motherfucker, ain't nobody looking for that kind of attention. Shit! Squeak! Ah, that was Lavender Lady. Thank you. Yes, excellent. Oh, Lavender Lady, who had a friend who was an extra in Return of the Living Dead. That's awesome. Brainbug says their anxiety is manic, and it makes me mean. I have known people with that constellation of symptoms and reactions. It's no fun. It's no fun for them. It's no fun to be around. My anxiety just makes me twitchy. I'm subject to panic attacks on top of just regular old anxiety, just the free-range variety. And that when I'm medicated for them now, thankfully, but when they sneak through the defenses, they hit hard. And I become totally non-functional. And that can last 30 seconds or 30 minutes. And it feels like 30 hours, regardless. Absolutely eternal is a panic attack when you're inside it. And there's only so much you can do about it. You know, I've tried breathing exercises. I've had them recommended to me. I've gone so far as to recommend them to other people if they think it'll work for them. Sometimes it works for me, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's just about remembering to breathe when you're in the grip of a panic attack. And then, yes, exactly. Shaking like a leaf and want to back up to a wall and disappear inside it. That's exactly how it feels. Fantastic. Aunt Jer says, there's been times when I mentally felt normal, but at the same time, so lethargic I can't get out of bed. Yes. Yes. You just lie there or just sit there. Or fucking just stand there sometimes if it sneaks up on you. You just lose the will to move. Those are unpleasant. Kim asks, can I touch on silent panic attacks? Something I mentioned on Twitter. Yes. There's a common perception, and I know because before I became subject to panic attacks, I had this perception that a panic event makes you shake and maybe scream or cry, curl up in a ball, rock back and forth, you know, all manner of stuff. Sometimes it's all inside here. Your brain feels like it's shaking back and forth in its place, and it's trying to shake itself loose and go for a walk. And when I experience those, it's about being, it makes me as reluctant and or unable to move as my depression can. It's a full body immobility while your mind goes racing and racing and racing about nothing. It's maddening. I hate it. Sometimes I'll be deep into one of those before I realize what's going on. Then I have trouble moving myself to get my anti-panic attack pills. Unpleasant to talk about, unpleasant to think about, important to speak out about. That's my refrain here on Mental Health Thursdays. If you can talk about it, because not everyone's in a position to, and not everyone's able to, and not everybody can. But those of us who are in a position to, if you can speak out about it, if you can be open about your mental health issues, it is so, so important to speak out about it and try to do everything you can. I know my right from my left to end the stigma. Because people won't talk about it if it's stigmatized. And if people won't talk about it, it'll never stop being stigmatized. Hey, Math Pig. Good to see you, as always. Kim says, I'm kind of loving everybody in the chat today. We're a collective mess, but in a good way. Yes. And thank y'all for being here. I needed my friends today. And I was afraid I was going to scare them all off with the title, quite honestly. I looked at that title after I typed it in and set up the stream, and I was like, whoo. Is anybody going to want to talk about depression in isolation? I don't know. I'm not sure I want to talk about it. But here y'all are. Santi, yes. Yes, absolutely. Eating disorders originate in the brain, even if it feels like they originate somewhere else sometimes. And they absolutely are mental disorders, and they can be just as debilitating as almost anything else. There's always going to be folks who have it worse, you know. Thank God I had anorexia and not, you know, Huntington's disease or something like that. I never suffered from schizophrenia, thankfully. But eating disorders can ruin your life. Yes, Paul, I saw your tea mug from Math Big. It's fantastic. And as Aunt Jer points out, it can be difficult. It can strain your interpersonal relationships. I've lost more than one crop of friends over the years due to untreated mental illness that I didn't know how to express, didn't know how to treat, didn't know how to talk to people about, and some lashing out that I did. Something. Yeah, says Robert X says, just stop your anxiety. Tell your heart to start beating normal again while having your heart attack. Eating disorders are just as likely to make one completely isolate. Yes. Starts in the brain, fucks up everything else along the way. Mine did. All right. Well, that was... this has been kind of a rough ride, y'all. I'm so glad you've been here. Thank you for being so supportive in the chat. Thank you for sharing. It's not been easy stuff we've talked about today. And it's, for a lot of us, stuff that we're dealing with now. Not just in the current age, but right fucking now. We just crossed the 40-minute mark. I'm starting to run out of gas. I try to keep these at or under the 45-minute mark anyway, just so that they don't end up being huge, bloated, ridiculous, long, rambling that nobody wants to watch old Junk Shop sit here and talk into a camera for 2 hours. When I have guests, we may run a little longer, but old Junk Shop himself, I've got about 45 minutes of mental health topic in me. And as Never Again points out, low spoons. Yep. Thank you, Mark Caesar. I appreciate that. That's what I want to have here. I want this to be a safe and inclusive space where we can talk as openly as we want to. Whether that's real fucking openly or not at all. But where we can come together with kind people and open up as much as we want to about our mental health issues. Yes, Math Pig, thank you for dropping that link. I knew there was something I forgot to plug. All right. Well, I'm going to switch my crawler here real quick. Got to thank my lovely patrons for helping me continue to do these multitudinous things on the channel that I love to do. And making it possible to continue and improve, get the lights, get the mics, get the computers, get all this shit so that I can keep on hanging out with y'all and not freeze up every 45 fucking seconds. Junk Shop was a verb. All right. Well, thank you all so much for being here. As we always say before we head out, everybody take care. Be safe. Stand against hate. And Mark Caesar, you're the only one.
Seriously.
You are alone in this one thing, my friend. We'll see y'all again soon. Be safe out there, y'all.